Hello, my name is Arfin Ali, and I am a senior here at Manchester High School. Today, I will be explaining how someone can prevent themselves from getting sick by bodybuilding and consuming the B vitamin complex. But before I start, are there any athletes here? Nice, quite a few of you. I've actually participated in the sport of wrestling since middle school. My biggest idol and motivator was definitely my brother. I don't like to brag, but in my opinion, I'm definitely the better looking Ali brother. But you didn't hear that from me. When I was a freshman on the wrestling team, my brother was my senior captain. I would see him go out on the mat, wrestle, and just dominate the competition. This blew my mind. He definitely motivated me to push past my limits, cracking down on me if I reached for the occasional can of soda or donut. And that's when I really started idolizing him. I was a very soft boy in 9th grade. I couldn't take much, and after running a couple meters, I would be out of breath. My goal through high school wrestling was to be a better wrestler than my brother, and through training immensely, I achieved this. One of the most important aspects of wrestling is either gaining or cutting weight in a short amount of time. I was stuck in a predicament my freshman year. I had to gain some pounds, and there were two ways that I could do this. I could either start eating a lot and gain fat weight, or I could start training and gain muscle mass. This is when I was introduced to bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is considered to be a low to moderate intensity training regimen, and it quickly packs on muscle mass. Very shortly, I became the man that I am today, both physically as well as mentally, by attacking the weights. During his time at MHS, my brother took a class called Science Research. In this 3-year course, he conducted his own experiment and his own research on a topic that he loved. You could say that he forced me into this class, but I soon grew to love it. During this class, I started doing research on the sport of bodybuilding, and I discovered that bodybuilders take in mass quantities of a supplement called glutamine. Glutamine is a supplement that helps them quickly to recover, as it targets the micro tears in the muscle caused by the stress placed upon them when you're lifting. I specifically wanted to see how a combination of these two factors would help patients undergoing chemotherapy recover much quicker and better. Chemotherapy severely degrades the immune system of a patient, and after doing about 1.5 years of research, I discovered that bodybuilders undergoing chemotherapy who continued to bodybuild as well as consumed the glutamine not only recovered much better and quicker than patients, but they also were able to keep their shape. This proved that these two factors combined did in fact increase the immunity of patients undergoing chemo, causing them to recover much quicker. This, however, made me question, what factors would help raise the immunity of everyday people who aren't undergoing chemo, but instead are facing common ailments such as the flu? Bodybuilding has already proven to boost immunity. Research has shown that low to moderate intensity exercise can actually help stimulate the immune system, making one less susceptible to infections. While doing research on the supplements that they take, I made another outstanding discovery. As I was breaking down what pre-workout contains, pre-workout is a supplement that you take 30 to 45 minutes prior to working out, and it basically contains ingredients that help you physically as well as mentally prepare for the weights. I discovered that a good portion of the matrix is made up of the B vitamin complex. The B vitamin complex is made up of 2 vitamins, vitamin B6 and vitamin B12, and both these are associated with white blood cells. White blood cell count is directly correlated with immunity, meaning if an individual has a higher white blood cell count, then they have higher immunity, and vice versa. Vitamin B6 actually helps white blood cells mature more rapidly, and a more mature white blood cell is able to fight off foreign invaders much more effectively, while vitamin B12 actually helps white blood cells reproduce more rapidly. And as I mentioned previously, the more white blood cells you have, the higher your immunity is. Research on the combined effect of vitamin B6 and B12 and bodybuilding on immunity had never been done before. So now that the research was done, I had to implement a methodology for an experiment that would prove whether these two factors would increase your immunity. In came the rats. Over the summer of my junior year going into my senior year, I purchased 8 rats for my experiment. It was a pretty shady deal, to be honest. I purchased all 8 of my rats online off of Craigslist. The rat dealers literally drove 2 hours to deliver the rats, and all they asked for in exchange was for some gas money, so I was a bit scared for my life. They claimed that all the rats were females, so I kept them in one cage, a detail that will be very important in the future. After the dealers had left, I had to bathe the rats. It took me 4 hours before I finally had the courage to touch one of them, my brother watching and laughing the entire time. When he performed his experiment, he worked with mice, and he held them without hesitation. The second day that I had the rats, one of them unfortunately passed away. She had a tumor that I wasn't aware about, and she didn't make it through the night. I was now working with 7 rats. A week before school started, I moved the rats from my aunt's garage to the school. I could now start my experiment. The first thing I did was take the rats to a vet who drew their blood and performed an initial white blood cell count. However, before my experiment could continue, the unthinkable happened. 4 out of the 7 rats started giving birth. Apparently, these 4 rats were female, while the other 3 rats were males. And since they were sharing the same cage, well, I bet you can guess what happened. I had to halt my experiment while I took care of the baby rats, and I had to separate the mommy rats from the daddies, since I didn't want any more unplanned pregnancies. The mommies did get a little bit aggressive after giving birth, and I still have the scars on my hands and arms from when they bit and scratched me. This experience definitely taught me one of the most important lessons of life, how to distinguish between male and female, and once again, it made me question the credibility of the rat dealers. Once the baby rats were old enough, they were put up for adoption, and all were adopted. I could now continue my experiment. The first thing that I had figured out was how to get the rats to bodybuild. In came the rat experts. Our rat experts made sure that through the weight training, the rats were treated kindly and ethically and were not harmed. At first, I tried making weighted vests for the rats, but they would just squirm right out of these. This happened a couple times before I figured out that the best way to get rats to bodybuild was to attach the weight to their tail. This did not harm them, and they were able to run around the school comfortably, dragging the weight behind them. This mimicked a sled pull, which bodybuilders use to quickly add mass to their hamstrings and quads. Crushed vitamin B6 and B12 was put in the water supply of the group of rats that were consuming them. This lasted for 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, the rats were supposed to get their blood drawn once again, and a final white blood cell count was supposed to occur. However, near the end of my experiment, the unimaginable happened. One of the male rats, Blaze, got in a fight with another male rat, Squeakers. Squeakers ended up ripping open the bottom of Blaze's stomach, and it wasn't looking too good. We showed Blaze to our rat experts, and they all said that Blaze wasn't going to make it through. We didn't have the money to send Blaze to a vet since we were a bit underfunded. So we set up a little critical care unit for him, and we just prayed for the best. Not only did Blaze survive, but he was back at pulling weights within 6 days following his injury, astounding everyone. I've actually seen similar healing capacities this year. I suffered 3 of my worst injuries during my wrestling career. In the beginning of the season, I popped my ankle, causing severe tears in the ligament. In addition to this, while wrestling at States, I hit my head on my opponent's knee, and I ended up having the severest concussion of my life. Recently, while wrestling at practice, my partner went for my leg, and I ended up hitting a full-on split. I managed to hold him off for a good 30 to 40 seconds before I heard a pop followed by a sharp pain. I later learned that I had torn my meniscus and my hamstring. The doctors claimed that these types of injuries would usually take months to heal. My season on the line, I did the only logical thing that I could think about doing. I started doing light bodybuilding training, and I upped my intake of the B vitamin complex. To the amazement of my doctors, my recovery time was much more rapid, and I was back on the mat wrestling within the 1 to 2 weeks following my injury. But going back to the rats, we drew their blood and performed the final white blood cell count, and all the rats' white blood cells had gone up. Everyone except Blaze, but this was due to the fact that he was injured. I believe that since he healed so rapidly, bodybuilding and the B vitamin complex did stimulate his immune system, making him heal much more quicker overall. You're probably wondering, what does this have to do with me? Well, in the future, calling in sick with your family is not an option. You have to properly train your immune system. So how do you do this? By bodybuilding and consuming the B vitamin complex. There are many alternatives out there if you can't afford a gym membership or the B vitamin supplements. You can work out at home. Doing push-ups with a weighted backpack on stimulates the muscle fibers in the pectorals immensely, while curling everyday objects such as water gallons can stimulate the muscle fibers in the bicep. In addition to this, there are many foods out there that contain loads of vitamin B6 and B12. Fruits and meats such as chicken, kiwis, apples, grapes, all contain adequate amounts of this supplement. I firmly believe that following this lifestyle will not only help you recover much more quicker and faster from injury and illness, but it will also put you in better health overall. Thank you.